Welcome to the Robcast. This is a show about Oakville, the people that live, work, and do business here. We're excited to have our guests here. This is Doug Greco, who's the founder and president of Catch Hospitality. We're going to get into this.
It's the Robcast podcast. He's with you for the next hour, or 20 minutes. Who knows? Let's see how it goes. Here he is. It's Rob Raham.
Doug, thanks so much for being here today. Let's go. So a lot of people don't know about me that I actually started my roots in the restaurant industry, and I think most people who do found themselves in a dishwashing capacity at some point. So ready getting into it, where did you start and how did you get into this industry?
Rob, thanks very much for having me on, first of all. And as we all do, we start in the dishwashing area in the hospitality industry.
Of course.
I cut my teeth at a restaurant called Houlihan's on Oakville on Church Street.
Think a bit before my time.
A little bit before your time. Real fun spot for a young guy to be working. And I think I was about 16 years old and started washing dishes in there. And my first shift working the restaurant was quite busy. And I think halfway through, the chef at the time stopped and said, "What do you want for dinner tonight?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, you get a free meal when you're working. We're a staff meal."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, I'm going to have a cheeseburger." And I thought, well, it can't get any better than this. They're going to feed me while I'm working.
That's it.
So I got hooked at a pretty early age at working in the restaurant business. And so I cut my teeth at Houlihan's for a lot of years. And dishwashing led to fry cook, and fry cook to the line cook. And I think I wasn't even finished school. I was running that kitchen and
Is that right?
working silly hours and getting home at 2, 3 in the morning. My dad used to say, get home on a bus. And I used to say, well, we don't close till 1 o'clock in the morning. And he said, you better start running. So
yeah,
the only thing that kept me in shape. So it was kind of running back and forth from the restaurant. So.
Was there a point where you kind of realized a lot of people get into this industry and they say, oh, I love I'm passionate about food and cooking food. This is what I want to do. Or there's more, some people go down the serving or the managerial. Was there a point where you thought, I don't want to be in the kitchen anymore. I'm more of the leader guy in the situation.
Yeah, I made it probably into my early 20s. And then, I always wanted to be a chef, so I really admire the whole culture. And that's, I grew up watching The Galloping Gourmet and on TV. And so I really loved the whole style of food and cooking and the passion of cooking. But I found out at a pretty early age then that there wasn't a lot of money for the culinary guys in the back of the house. It seemed to be going all to the front of the house. So I kind of made some transitions and started working in the front of the house in my early 20s. And then that just kind of kept growing. And I was fairly good at what I was doing. So I ended up moving along pretty fast and being a really young manager running Sharky's in Burlington there for probably 5 years. Sheraton hotels.
So earning your stripes along the way.
Kind of got all my stripes going along the way, and worked in some great spots and worked for some great people. Learned a lot of great things.
Yeah. Where was the actual start where it was your thing? You started to kind of look, okay, I want to start something. I've learned enough now. Was there a point in your career where you said, I've got an idea, or we're going to work as partners? Or
well, strangely enough, I was on the opening team with a small restaurant that opened in Bronte, which is a little bit of a longer story. It's where the old fire hall was in that plaza that just got knocked down.
Okay, yep.
But that restaurant was called The Docks, and it was a bunch of guys came out of Toronto, good restaurateurs. They had a great concept, and they opened a restaurant, I always say, probably 20 or 30 years before its time.
Right.
So they had like the 600-gallon aquarium, wing-back chairs, spectacular in Bronte. 30 years ago.
Right.
Just a little bit before its time. And I worked for those guys. They had a great managing partner there. His name was Randy Myers. And Randy ended up not working out with his partners, to say the least.
Not the first time this happens in a partnership, right?
Yeah. He walked back into the restaurant when I was cooking in the back at the time. He walks back into the restaurant one night, kicks open the back door, and he says, "Greco, you're with me. Come with me." And I go, "Where are we going?" And he goes, "I got an idea for another restaurant." And he gets me in his car. We drive down the street, maybe a block, and we're right across the road from Stoneboats, which it wasn't called Stoneboats at that time. It was just a house. And he says, "That's where I think we should put a restaurant." And
Is this south of Lakeshore,
south of Lakeshore,
right across from the lake there? Okay.
Yeah, right where, right across from where Plank is now.
Yeah.
So anyways, he says, I think I want to open a restaurant and put it in there. And he says, I know it's just a house now. And I said, well, let's go in and take a look at it. He goes, you can't. People live there. And I go, yeah, it's my cousin. Let's go in and take a look. My cousin used to rent the house that was Stone Boats.
Yeah.
So we went in, and next thing we know, we're talking about opening up a restaurant there. He had some great investors. He asked me at a very young age if I wanted to invest in it. And I said, yes, I would love to. Went to my dad. My father at the time said, yes, we'll allow you to get in there for a small amount of money. It wasn't much, maybe $80,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Long story short, Randy says, we need the money in there. We're building this restaurant. We're coming along. He goes, we need the money. And my dad says, you're in for 80, get me in for 80, but I want to be a working partner. And I said, you don't know anything about the restaurant business. You're a barber. And he goes, well, no money for you, no money for no money for me, no money for you. Yeah, you're not in there. So anyways, we opened Stone Boats there, converted into a beautiful little restaurant, and Stone Boats was there for probably about 5 years with Randy Byers until his partners kind of said that they needed to do some cash calls and get some of their money back. And then that took a whole different turn, and it stayed Stone Boats for 15 more years, I think.
Your mainstay right now with Catch seems to be in the Bronte area. Are you living in Bronte? Did it just happen that way?
Yeah, so my family on my mother's side has been in Bronte for, late 1800s or so. So like where the mall is, where the plaza is, that was my mother's side of the family. Stories had an orchard there. It was one of the last houses to come out of Oakville that didn't have running water, electricity, and it had an outhouse. So that was on my mom's side of the family. Then across the street, my uncle had Roy's. His name was Roy Van Sickle, and he owned a big chunk of property on the other side, which corner West Street and Sovereign. My family came out in '63. I was just a baby, and my parents left Toronto and moved back out to Bronte, and my family owned big farm on East Street, which is now the Bronte Athletic Field.
Yes.
So behind the Bronte Athletic Field. So where all the tennis courts and that was our property when I was growing up. So I've been there for a long time. I have a lot of love for it. I've done some traveling, lived out in Alberta and stuff for a bit, but I always thought I'd end up back in Bronte.
Bronte being your home.
It's just Bronte is just
when you were looking at restaurants. I mean, I'm born and raised in Oakville, and the assumption is the restaurants are downtown, right? I know that comes with its own challenges, but you have kind of taken a different approach. Have you ever considered being in downtown Oakville, or the reasons why? Or you just that
Never.
Bronte's your area?
Never. So being from Bronte, I would say that I've always thought I just want to be in that area.
Okay.
And when Bronte was a little bit smaller, 25 years ago even, and we opened up the fire hall, I was quite happy with that, and we were doing quite well. We ended up, thinking, let's go and open another restaurant. My partners were like, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I'd like to open up a little bit more upscale in Bronte. I think it's going to come at some point in time.
Yeah.
And we opened up Coochie on Jones Street. Yeah. So everybody I knew in the restaurant business laughed at me and said, you're opening up a dining room in Bronte? Like, nobody will go there.
Yeah.
We're 16 years old now. So you can imagine, like, Bronte's changed a lot. We see it now. It's really changing. But, Bronte was definitely... my parents did everything to move out of Bronte to get the other side of Third Line to say they were from Oakville, not from Bronte.
Right.
So those changes came hard and fast. But when we finally got Jones Street up and running, and we lost money for 2 years straight, like just not a dime.
Yeah.
We used to get in there and sweep the floors in the morning, mop them, and then hang up your coats for lunch.
Yeah, and like at this time, like social media wasn't a thing. Like so like how are you trying to back then? And the challenges of trying to get the attention of it. What were the ways that you kind of went about it for restaurants back then to try and get the attention on it? Yeah,
so we had a pretty good rapport with our clients, even from the fire hall, but it wasn't our clients. So the fire hall definitely was not our clients for Coochie, and we found that out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So as I said, for about 2 years, we didn't make any money. We had a lot of help from Anna and Patrizio that owns Tuckafino downtown and M for Men. They came out one night, had a wonderful dinner with us at Coochie, and they said, oh, this is a great spot. So they introduced us to a whole different group of people from East
Right,
Oakville
sure.
that would have probably never found that restaurant.
Which is amazing.
Which
It's
is
like
amazing.
3 kilometers down the road. It's right there.
But
Yeah.
being downtown Oakville and being in West End of Oakville,
It was a-
you know,
it's a thing.
sometimes
It
it's
was
the
a
ugly
thing.
stepsister on the other end of the street, right?
That's right.
And a lot of people couldn't tell you where it was,
Yeah.
right? So we were going pretty good there, and we started to get busier. We got some good traction. I think it was good. A little stuffy. You know, we people started to make it into what they wanted it to be rather than what we wanted it to be.
Right.
I thought it became a little pretentious. But then,
people, you mean like people were coming in expecting a certain dish or just
turn the music
certain
down,
time?
don't do this, do that. Like, you know, walk me to my car. You know, there was a lot of things that were going on when we first opened, and we were kind of like finding our way as we were going along to get into that market. I used to go and see Jay over at Jonathan's downtown Oakville every Saturday night. That would be my, as a single guy at the time,
debrief, just chill,
just relax and sit at the bar. And, you know, I was sitting at the thing telling them one night I was going to open up this restaurant, and Rob Reed was the piano player, still one of my best friends. I love him. He's out on the East Coast now, but I said to him, Rob, I'm going to open up this great little restaurant down there. I'm going to put a piano in. It's going to be really nice. And he finally came out to see it, and he goes, when do I start, and where do I set up the piano? So he left there, and I think Jason or one of his staff made a joke that, you know, the wing guy is opening up a restaurant in Bronte, and this should be kind of funny. And you know, we're still friends. I like Jay. He's a great operator. He's sold out now. He's living his best life.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, we had a little bit of a struggle at the start, and then we got a blessing where Amy Pataki, the food writer for the Toronto Star, came in and did a secret shop, whatever.
Yeah,
and
a review of
Coochie. It hit the Toronto Star. This is after being open for about 2 years. Hits the Toronto Star, and the title was Best Little Restaurant You've Never Heard of.
Wow. You had no idea it was going on.
No idea it was going on. And when people talk, like now it's like food writers and everything, they call you, they're coming in, they're going to see this, you got to pay them, you got to do all this.
Almost scripted, right?
It's scripted. Then it was not. And if you would have known Amy Pataki was coming into the restaurant, I don't even know what we would have done. Like we would have kind of went out
pure
of our
panic,
minds.
you know,
Pure panic,
roll out the red
freaking out.
carpet. Yeah,
we didn't know, but she writes this great little article. It's still there. You can find it online. It's called the Best Little Restaurant You've Never Heard of. Wow, we just started like taking off, and then
you have people coming from the city too. You have people coming from everywhere.
Yeah, we had people coming from everywhere, and we just started taking off, and it never looked back from that point.
So do you realize interesting, like, or were you aware it was there, or did people just start calling and you're going, what is this?
I knew after the fact that she had written it, because she called me and she said everything was spectacular. I have one question. What's the name of your pastry chef that did the chocolate cake? And I said, Amy, I can't lie to you. I said, it was December, I think she was in. And I said, we're so busy. I used a friend of mine called Jerry that owns Baker Street in Toronto to produce these wonderful cakes for us. And she said, you would have got the full Monty, but we're going to take 1 star away or half a star away, whatever she took away for that. And but wonderful. As I said, it turned a corner, and we never really looked back.
So that's obviously an unreal story, almost a fluke story to be able to gain that instant success with it. Was there a time in Bronte where you started to look at it and go, okay, we've got Fire Hall running, we've got a loyal following, we've got Coochie, it's running smoothly, we're pleased with it. When was it was there a time when things were developing, or you started to see, because I remember the Bronte started to become kind of trendy, and then all of a sudden the Plank kind of shows up.
Well, you're a guy that's in real estate, and we've had a lot of credit through realtors saying that you've kind of really driven a lot to Bronte, making restaurants, and then it's walkable, and we can get our spot where we're close to our house. So Plank, a funny story. So we opened up Plank because we were stuck in a deal on the original Fire Hall in that crappy old plaza that was there. That we had a deal written in with those guys pre-me. It was a pre-me. I inherited an old lease. And it had a thing that if you hit something over, $2 million, you'd be paying percentage rent. And so I wanted to move some money out of there so that I didn't have to give these guys extra money. And so I went down, and the corner was available. Originally, it was just the 2 units, 7 and 8, were available. And we put Plank in there, not thinking that it was going to do much more than $1 million,
Sure.
whatever, what we wanted to move out of this business. And Plank, just from the day we opened it, went off the rails. And, somebody was looking over the shoulder and saying, bless Greco here with one more thing. Let's give him the dress shop that's on the corner. When I went in, I said, can I get the dress shop that's on the corner if it ever comes available? And my landlord laughed at me. He goes, she's been there for 25 years. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think we even offered her money if she would think about moving her dress
Just to
dress
expand,
shop. So we can expand to the window side of Marine Drive and get the great view of the lake and everything. And she said, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay. And within, I think it was a year, she came back and said, I'm retiring and I'm going to go. And
meant to be.
And we took it. And it is just knock on everything.
It's been your staple of the franchises, eh? I mean, the Fire Hall. I mean, you still have your following. I mean, when you move from to the different locations, did that suffer a bit, or?
Well, so we, we had. I knew it was going to happen, and I took the spot with where it is now on the corner of Jones. We took that space from the landlord. He had, I think, a boxing gym in there, and he had his laundry mat in the back and whatever. And I took the boxing gym, and I said, we're going to put. Taste Marketeria in there.
I remember that.
If you remember that.
It was kind of a test run.
Yeah, we do our catering. We do a lot of catering out of there. And so we had Taste Marketeria in there. We had a little market in the front, which was kind of fun. Again, no money in it.
Yeah.
We were in there, and we've got this little thing. And it was just a placeholder to hold us until we knew we had to move the fire hall.
Right.
And Attilio, the landlord at the fire hall, was wonderful. He said, listen, when you're ready to take the whole building, we're going to retire out of the laundromat. You take the whole thing and you'll be all set. So we knew it was coming. And then I think 6 months after we opened the marketplace, the landlords came from the other place and said, we're giving you 6 months notice, you're going to move. So we just started, we started changing taste into the fire hall and kicking out the landlord, if you will, and changing the laundromat into the bar area, the new fire hall.
Right.
So what happened was that the night we closed the fire hall, we brought all the regulars that were really great regulars.
I remember
we
that
had
story.
Them all in the
walked
bar,
them down, right?
and we walked them across the street and opened the door and went in and poured the first round of beers for everybody the same night that we closed.
I remember
the
that
next
story.
Day we were
it's a legendary story, right?
It was epic for me. I mean, and our customers just loved it. And we're on our 25th year this year. So let's hope we get a few more there, and it's going well.
Yeah. No, interestingly, I remember again growing up, the Mexican food wasn't that a big a thing here. There was the one, I think it was Arizona's on Cross. I think it was Arizona's. Yeah. You can get the fajitas, and then it was Mexicali Rosas in that kind of old decrepit building. I don't know how they were, but it was pretty authentic. And then for a long time, there wasn't one. Is that part of the reasoning you kind of went to Por Vida or that direction, or is it just a concept for you guys?
No. So again, back in the old plaza, I opened up a burrito store again to hold some space, and we opened up a burrito store, and it had some limited success for what it was. So I figured there might be some kind of a market. Nothing that I knew about. Not my food strength. I don't have any strength in the culture of the Mexican food. But we had a young chef working with us at Plank, and he was the bee's knees, if you will, when it came to food. Eduardo, and Eddie's been with us for years, and he said to me one day, he says, I think I'm going to leave. And we're pretty fortunate for a restaurant group. We have people that get involved with us and stay. We've got employees that are over 25 years with us and have grown up, and their kids have grown up, and they bought houses and done some things. So when people say they're going to leave me, I always kind of go, what did we do wrong?
Well, wait a minute here.
What's going on?
Let's find the story out.
And Eddie's whole thing was just about food, his culture, and what he wanted to bring to the culinary scene. And he just didn't know how to exactly do it. And I said, what are you thinking? He says, I want to do food of my culture, and I want to do Mexican food. And he's second generation. His parents are here. He's grown up here, but he knows a lot about the food. He knows a lot about the culture. And I said to him, Eddie, then that's what we should do. We should open up a little Mexican restaurant in Bronte, and you should head that thing up. And
what an opportunity, right?
Yeah, really, truly. And I think we did it right. We flew down to Mexico City after us hammering out some details. We flew down with 4 of the chefs to Mexico City.
Okay.
We spent, I think we were there for 2 weeks.
On your dime, you just pulled them down. Yeah, so let's go do it.
Yeah, and we left Eddie there for another 2.5, 3 weeks with Juan Cabrera, which is one of the top chefs in Mexico City, owns quite a few restaurants.
Wow.
Fondafina. Left him there. We paid all his wages. We paid his accommodation. We flew his girlfriend down. And he lived there for a while and really got submerged in that food and what he wanted to do and how to do it. And he goes back all the time. He's back and forth. He just got back maybe 2 weeks ago.
Every time he goes, does he bring in new ideas,
new concepts, and wherever he goes. That provincial food that's in that area was really spectacular. So you'll see some of that on the next menu.
Yeah, like truly authentic, right?
It is truly authentic.
Yeah.
And if you look at anything, social media wise, and what people say about that restaurant, one thing they say is it's very authentic. The food quality is amazing, and
Eddie's still heading it up. He's still your guy.
He's the man. He's in there every day. He works his butt off, and he does a phenomenal job. And I think, anywhere west of the city, you're not going to find better. Just really great quality. It's small. We've always tried to get more space there. We've tried to make some deals with the landlord. It doesn't seem we're getting bigger space.
Yeah.
But it's packed all the time.
So sometimes it gives that kind of intimate feeling, though. In a restaurant like that, you kind of want that feel as well sometimes, right?
My family and I were coming back from sports on, I think, Sunday night, and we wanted to just drop in and have some tacos. This is at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I have to go in and beg for a seat in my own restaurant. And he's like, you got like maybe 40 minutes, and then I need you to go.
Get out, yeah.
And that was the manager that was on. I was like, 40 minutes? I got to like wolf these tacos,
Yeah.
But it was busy, and it was packed. So, again, blessed. It's really brought a great part of that food scene into Bronte. And, culturally, I think people are getting more adventurous with what they want to have. And now we wouldn't say Mexicans adventurous, but a few years back, people would say, like, what, you're going to open a Mexican restaurant down here in Bronte?
Yeah.
So it's getting there.
Now, talk to me about the story about the Boathouse, because, how did you come to kind of, I remember there was a lot of people looking to get that space, and I think it was town-owned, or how did you come to be that you had that opportunity?
So it was not on our radar. The Christensen family were running that property for the last 25 years. Right. And they sublet it out into some other restaurant groups that over the years had been in there. And they're really focused on catering. Their whole focus was really catering. And the town recognized that they wanted to have a restaurant down on the marina. And so they finished the lease off, I think, with the Christensens. I'm not going to get all the details straight, but they finished it off, I think, with Eileen Christensen. And then they went looking. They hired a consultant, the East Coast of Canada. He came through and interviewed tons of people in Oakville restaurants and talked about who could do this job. Long story short, they asked us if we'd be interested in looking after putting a restaurant in there.
Yeah.
Now, when the guys were told that they no longer had that restaurant in there, they went in and literally pulled every frickin' thing out of there that you could imagine. Yeah, they turned off the water, turned off the power, cut everything, and pulled everything out. Jeez. And when I say everything went out of there. Refrigeration, sinks, there wasn't a thing left. And they came to us in April. I think it was April. Might have been, might have been just before that. And they're like, when are you thinking? And I'm like, when do you think you want this done? And they're like, how fast can you get it done? And I went in there and looked at it. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a mess. But our team turned that around in a couple months.
Yeah.
All new kitchen, everything. Refrigeration, walk-ins, all new hot line, cold line, the whole 9 yards, furniture, everything went in there. So I think we did a pretty good job on that, and we're up and running.
There's no way a new restaurateur is getting those connections to be able to come in and pull something off like that, right?
I think it would be difficult.
Yeah,
I think it would be difficult. The town was instrumental in helping us make sure that we could navigate some things that, with controls, AGCO and things like that. They did help us. We had a great chef at the time, Eric Melke, went in there and rocked that thing for years, every summer. And we said we would do it for the summer. I mean, as a Bronte resident, I can tell you, not much happens good down there, like in the winter. It's just like it's a dark space, and all the boats are out, and it's gray, and it's a little bit ugly there. So, anyways, we had a great team in there and opened it up. Boathouse is going, and I think now we're on our 6th or 7th year entering in on the
So remind
Boathouse.
me, is it still seasonal? Is it May?
It is seasonal, and it gets the town's trying to do some things down there right now to really improve the waterfront. They've really spent some money in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They ripped up the whole back last year and put all new stone in the back. They've got everything's being repaved. I don't know if you've been down there lately, but they're digging up everything. It's just.
And it seems like the town of Oakville, not just the town of Bronte and the BIA down there, they're all trying to focus it in. There's a lot of great events. It seems like they're using that space because really the unfortunate part about downtown is they don't have that open space.
Right now, yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that they're thinking about things.
Yes.
But for sure, I think that Bronte Boathouse area, as I say to Mayor Burton all the time, that could be the jewel in the top of the crown for certainly for Oakville. But if you came all the way from Hamilton all the way around to the GTA or right into downtown Toronto, that thing could be the crown jewel. It's a spectacular spot.
You've given me a nice segue to there. You talk about Hamilton,
yeah,
right? And now
yeah.
Hamilton was the new Toronto, and all the trendy restaurants. I mean, this still comes with the challenges, but you guys have obviously seen some opportunities and have started to take some of your franchises that way.
Yeah,
tell me how you kind of came down to that direction there.
Yeah, we take the brands there. We don't franchise, but we take the brands there. And so I got an opportunity a couple of years ago through the Laundry Design Group, which does all of our creative for all the restaurants. Are a spectacular group of people. They said they were going to open up something called the Laundry Room Boutique Hotel in Hamilton.
Okay. Yeah.
And they asked me if I'd get involved with that. And at the time I said, yeah, absolutely. I think that it's something I could get into and sink my teeth into. After talking to my accountants and everything, he said, Doug, you're not a bad restaurateur, but you know nothing about running hotels and boutique hotels in Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I agreed in that. And so we decided that we would not get involved in the hotel. But to their credit and the credit of meeting Steve Kalikowski, the owner of Core Urban there, great guy, young guy, on fire. The things this man does in Hamilton with real estate, and he takes like spaces. These were on 2 open parking lots, and he's built these buildings that look like they've been there for like 75 years, but all modern amenities and spectacular architecture. He's just done a great job. And I talked to Steve, he said, you're still interested in putting a restaurant in there? And at the time we were like, yeah, okay, we could do it. The group wanted us to put in the design group and the partners that were involved in that thought a different style of restaurant. But I thought, Plank could probably, if anything could do it, if I'm going to go into Hamilton, it would be Plank. And so we opened Plank there. So we're about a year in, and it's going really well. I mean, the response that Hamilton's given us has been second to none.
Fantastic.
And not being from Hamilton, but I did live there in the 90s when my daughter was growing up. Her mom's from there, and they moved back that way. I know the area, and but I was shocked on how they took an outsider from Oakville in there and let us do what we do.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing a pretty good job there. So we opened the Plank downstairs. We opened a rooftop patio there, the first one in Hamilton. So we're up on the 8th floor there, and we craned up a food truck onto the top of the thing to look after all of our food. We got 80 seats up there. Just gangbusters last year, and so we're excited to get the second summer under the way. And talking to Steve Kalikowski, he said, would you be interested in doing another restaurant in Hamilton if we did something else on the street? He says, I know what you do in Bronte, and all your restaurants are pretty close. And I said, sure, I think I would. We shook hands. I'll never forget it because we hadn't opened Plank yet, and I think they cut ground a month later on the next parking lot, 2 doors over, and now we're opening up a big restaurant there called Ciao Bella. Italian, and we're going to. It's got a 140-seat patio wrapping around 2 streets. Spectacular view from the top. We're doing an event space on the top of that one on the 10th floor called the Penthouse, which will be event space. Has a 130-seat patio on the roof overlooking the city.
Yeah.
It'll be the second rooftop patio in Hamilton, and I'm very excited about it.
It's so great to hear about your success and how it's expanding out into Hamilton. Let's pull it back into Oakville. What are some of the challenges as a restaurateur you're facing right now? I mean, we could talk about inflation and things like that, but as a town, what are some of the challenges you're facing right now?
Quite honestly, I think we had a meeting with Councillor Sean O'Mara years ago, and Sean is very active, obviously, in what he does in that community. And he had a whole bunch of landlords come together. We had a meeting, and he brought in some people that are in different businesses in the Bronte area, and we were talking about what will make Bronte more of a destination for new businesses coming in, and this had to be tempered with landlords that were saying, we deserve more money. We put in the long go. We need to get more money. And I said, I 100% agree with you. I think you all deserve more money. The thing is, you probably won't get it from me. Restaurants are on a thin margin anyways, as everybody knows. You can work as hard as you want. It's getting even worse, and we don't have to go into all those gross details. But when it comes to rent, we have people that, with a straight face, will tell me that they want me to move into their new location. It's $55 a square foot plus $18 TMI. And I said, well, that's great, but you're not looking for a restaurant. You're looking for a bank that's serving hot dogs, and it is not me. I don't have that money. There's no way you can make it work, in my view, when you start getting your rents up to that spot. Certainly in Bronte, we have no downtown. There's no working force in Bronte. Spears Road doesn't have the luxury of taking a 2-hour lunch. So there's not a lot going on. You really get limited in what you can do with the hours of operation. Right. And I think that you see it over and over and over again in Bronte, where little restaurants will come in and they get going, and then within a year or two they're gone. They're just buried in debt and can't get out of it.
Do you think it's the same situation downtown Oakville? I mean, the for lease or for sale sign. I mean, like the turnover. I mean, you've got maybe 3 or 4 staple restaurants that have been there for a long time. Do you think it's just is it the rent driven that it's charging? From your
background, Peter Neary got the rents up to where he wanted them to go before he made his deal to exit and get it all gone and moved out of the U.S. and good on him. That's great. But when you purchase that property and you want to work at that property, you want to keep the rents where they are. Yeah. And so I think that it makes it difficult for a restaurateur. I have no desire to go downtown Oakville. Right. And that isn't because I don't believe it's beautiful or viable. It's like downtown Oakville, when my wife and I go out, it's kind of like they roll up the sidewalks around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And unless you're getting a gelato, like everybody's gone home.
We were downtown trying to do a shoot with the natural shoot for this show with lots of people around, and it was 7 o'clock on a Friday, and like the parking lots are full, but there's no one on the street. So
all restaurants are struggling with somewhat the same things, where a lot of people are working still remotely. They're still at their home, and they're not going into where they have to go. Town of Oakville doesn't work at the Town of Oakville anymore.
I know you can't walk in and talk to anyone.
You can't walk in and talk to anybody. No. And a lot of businesses are still like that. So downtown, I don't think is going to get away from that. I mean, you're going to have the people come in, find parking. There's going to be issues, but I don't think at the dollar value that rents are going to get at is that you're going to see a ton of restaurant groups going like, I got to be downtown on the strip.
Right.
It wouldn't be my first pick. And
ultimately, Bronte's not huge. There's not a ton of spaces.
It's not. It's getting bigger all the time. As you know, we've got developments on the corner of East Street, Bronte Road and Lakeshore.
That was one of the ones I was going to ask. The large, high, the rental building that had come in that there's so much pushback on. Have you noticed a positive thing for your business with that coming in, or not yet?
Not yet per se. I've talked to a lot of people that have purchased or are thinking about purchasing, but then price becomes a little bit crazy.
Sure.
You're in real estate. It's not my forte, but when I've sent a lot of people to that direction to go talk to them about it, and they all came back saying, "Not for me.
It's pricey.
Not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to get something else." So I think that we will see it. The trouble with Bronte now is we, as Catch Hospitality, last year had 450 employees. That's our rock and roll. We're the biggest employer in the west end of Oakville.
Yeah.
Ask the mayor, ask anybody. We're the biggest employer in the west end of Oakville. We cannot find accommodations for anyone to live. Basic rent in Bronte's gone anywhere from $900 is when we started, maybe a few years ago for a one bedroom, and now we're at $2,600, $23,000 for the new building, and you just can't, There's all kinds of costs, but I think when it comes into like how are we getting employees, last year we had almost 30% of our employees coming from Grimsby, Stony Creek, Hamilton.
Commuting in and out.
Yeah. One of the other factors we went into the city.
Yeah.
So I think that unless they start to really look at this thing, you're going to end up with a difficult labor market down there.
It's tough.
It already is tough.
It's tough to pay that much rent making off a salary of a server or a chef or a cook, right? It's almost
and I think I think with minimum wage, where they say it's it's not a livable wage. It was never meant to be a livable wage, in my view. As an entry level, kind of let's get going. And as a restaurant guy at the start, you're going to pay your dues and suck it up. It wasn't meant like this is your career forever.
Job,
I'm going to be a dishwasher. I'm going to be a server.
Yeah.
A lot of people are, but I think you're going to see fewer and fewer that are going to stick around. And we have our challenges as well.
If there's advice that you could have to other people who are in Oakville, have had some time in restaurants, they've been chefs, or they know chefs, they've gotten ideas, is there an advice that you would give them as they're starting to go down this road, and maybe not don't do it, but the challenges or what you would say, advice for a new entrepreneur going into the hospitality industry? Is there something you've learned along the way?
There's nothing I could say if you're passionate about what you do. And people with passion are going to do what they do, and they're going to put in the best effort that they possibly can. If you're one of those guys that think you're going to go in there because you're going to make a lot of money and it's this and that, those days are long gone. I don't know if they ever were there, but I think that if you were passionate about you're going to go. I always say hire the best that you possibly can and get out of their way. And I do that with my team all the time. We have great people working for us, and I always say, I'm just a sounding board. You got to drive this bus, and you got to get going. So
it sounds like a great company to work with, and you've had a lot of success in Oakville. So, Doug, this has been an amazing conversation. I appreciate you being here. It brings us to one of my favorite parts of the show. This is the rapid ask question to our guests. So let's get this one started. So if you were on death row and it was your last meal, what would that meal be?
You know what? I'm a big foodie. I'm always out and about. I have a lot of great memories of food. But if you had to ask me that question, I'm going to take hot dogs, a very simple steamed hot and craft dinner.
Wow.
Very simple.
I don't think anybody saw that one coming.
Yeah, my wife and I, when we first started dating or whatever, and she wanted to make dinner for me one night, and she wasn't a great cook at the time. Yeah, she is now, and I'm going to give her that.
Yeah.
But at the time, she made craft dinner and hot dogs because I told her it was one of my favorite things. And 2 kids later.
Same thing. A simple man. I like that about you. That's great.
Very nice.
How about this? What's your favorite sports team or sports to watch on TV if you have time on the weekend, which I know you never do?
I don't have a lot of time to watch it, but we just went through the Masters weekend. Oh my God. Give me golf anytime. I'll be happy to watch it. I can no longer watch the Leafs. My heart is broken. It just pains me all the time to watch them. So I can't say that. It
allows me to bring you into if you had some time in the afternoon, you have a favorite sport or hobby that you like to do, if you have some time to yourself.
Yeah, it'd be hitting balls with my boys. They're both into golf, and so I'd say I don't mind hitting balls with the boys. It's good.
Oakville's a special place to a lot of people. What's the most special thing about you and being and living in Oakville?
I think the sense of community. Again, being from Bronte, I can walk down that street and have people honk their horn, wave at me, and some people that don't know me, if they start talking to me in a parking lot or something, they'll make silly references like, "Are you the mayor of Bronte?" or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just that I've been there my whole life, and people know me, and then they see me in the restaurants, and thank God they think they know me, so they honk and wave, and we're a very friendly bunch, of course. But I love that about
the sense of community. I think it's one of the top things. It's the reason people move here, right? For sure.
Sense of community.
What about this one? If you had a week off, no cell phone, you should go away with the family, where would you go in the world?
I'd go back to Thailand. Yeah,
Thailand.
Yeah,
okay.
I love Thailand. It was great food, great experience. I was there with my daughter, and we were traveling Hong Kong, Thailand, and it was spectacular. I really loved it. So my wife and my boys want to go. We went back to we did Italy this past year. We did a couple of weeks there. I loved that. But I would probably say Thailand. I want my kids to experience and my wife to enjoy it too.
Interesting. I guess the last question we have here is: there something about you that not many people would know? What's something about you that not many people would know about you?
I'm actually very shy.
Okay.
I'm very much an introvert, and people
you wouldn't be able to tell from this interview, but from your business,
people have made that assessment a few times and said I can't really see that. However, I think I've always been a little bit reserved and quiet. But in the restaurant business, that is the kiss of death, I think. So I learned at an early age, be a little bit more of an extrovert, and you'll do okay in the industry. But when I get home, I'm a very withdrawn,
it's a funny
kind of
thing.
quiet
I share in that quality with you. Everyone thinks, oh, he's outgoing, he's on TV. But no, I'm a shy guy too.
Yeah, and you're out and about. You got to be on. But when you get home, it's nice to just decompress and relax. Yeah.
Doug, I really appreciate you being on today. This has been an awesome conversation. We appreciate you watching. Stay tuned for another episode of the Robcast podcast.